Have you ever thought about death, not during an illness, not in a hospital, but just in the quiet of the night when your heart suddenly skips a beat? That fear, it's one we all face. Whether you're someone living alone in a small apartment or someone with a home full of kids and grandkids, death remains something no one truly teaches us to face. But the strange thing is, those who have come closest to death are often the ones who are the most at peace. They don't panic, they don't avoid it, they don't try to forget. Instead, they learn a new way to live deeper, to live with more meaning, and to live without that constant nagging worry in their hearts. In this video, I will share 5 real lessons from older adults who have overcome the fear of death, not through medicine or religion, but through simple, everyday shifts in their mindset and lifestyle. If you have ever kept that worry to yourself, ever woken in the middle of the night from a single thought, then this video is a place where you can sit down, take a very deep breath, and begin learning how to live a long life without fearing the end. And if you know a friend who has also confided, "I'm so scared of dying," please send this video to them, because maybe all they need is a calm word from someone who is also walking the same path. Let's get into our first lesson. Living each day with purpose eases anxiety. Older people often don't die from disease. They die from waking up with nothing to do. At a certain age, death is no longer a foreign concept, but an eventuality sooner or later. And it is so understandable when seniors sometimes worry, "I wonder how much time I have left." But the scariest thing isn't death. It's the days lived without knowing what you're living for. Conversely, when we have a purpose, however small, the mind has no more room for fear. A reason to get out of bed, a task for your hands, someone to look forward to, these are all tiny threads weaving a blanket of peace for the soul. That purpose need not be grand, just simple and consistent. Tending to a plant, calling a grandchild, writing a few journal lines, walking for 15 minutes, or cooking a meal for a loved one. According to research from the Journal of the American Medical Association, JAMA, older adults with a clear sense of purpose each day have a 40% lower risk of depression and anxiety, and may even live up to 7 years longer than those who feel purposeless. This has less to do with physical health than mental. When the mind is stable, everything else tends to follow suit. Mr. Harold, 82 years old in Oregon, endured a period of emptiness after his wife passed. He feared death because, "I didn't know who would remember me." But then one day he began teaching his granddaughter how to bake. Now every week he has a little appointment to pass on his skill. "I live for every Saturday," he says. "I fear death less because I am leaving something of myself behind." If you've ever asked yourself, "What am I living for?" The answer isn't far. Create a small reason to move through each day. It doesn't have to be monumental, just heartfelt. Each night before bed, think of one thing you want to do tomorrow. And in the morning, do that exact thing with complete focus and love. It could be watering a plant, tidying a bookshelf, writing down the name of someone you love, anything that warms your heart. When you have something to live for, you won't be so afraid to die, because then every passing day becomes a profound thank you that you offer to this life. And once you have a reason to live each day, the next step toward a peaceful mind is learning acceptance. That change, aging, and even loss are all very natural parts of our human journey. Death is not scary. What's scary is trying to ignore it and wasting every day living meaninglessly. At 70, 80, or beyond, many people start seeing death as something drawing closer, day by day. But what matters isn't whether death comes, but how we welcome it. Some people are terrified, trying to avoid it, pushing it from their thoughts. But others gently accept it is a natural part of this journey. We are born, we grow, we love, we nurture, then we age. Death isn't a period at the end, but the final chapter after a journey long enough. Only when we accept that do we start to truly live. To live with gratitude. To live without wasting a single hour, a single minute. According to the Stanford Center on Longevity, older adults with an accepting attitude toward death often live in a more serene state, with 35% less anxiety than those who avoid or deny it. They tend to connect better with family, enjoy the present more, and suffer less from sleep or blood pressure issues caused by stress. Mrs. Joan, 85 from Maine, once said something that gave many people pause. "I'm not afraid to die because I have lived. I wasn't perfect, but I loved, I taught, and I gave. Now I just hope each remaining day is peaceful." She still walks each morning, plants flowers each afternoon, and talks with her great-grandchildren when she can. Unhurried, unpanicked. If you find yourself startled by thoughts of death, pause for a moment, sit quietly, breathe slowly, and ask, knowing it will come, how can I make today more meaningful? Because death cannot take away what you've given, what you've loved. It only closes a life chapter that was already full. Try writing a few lines each week about what you are thankful for, something you have overcome, or someone you once helped. Looking back, you will see, in this life, you did not pass through without meaning. Dying is not as scary as living without meaning. And when we accept the inevitable, that is when we live the rest of our lives most beautifully. And once you've learned to accept the inevitable, a simple yet powerful act can lighten your mind each day. That is, retelling the beautiful memories that you have lived through. A person could live for 10 more years, but if every night is a silent, internal panic, how is that different from being half dead already? The fear of death rarely comes from the body. It comes from the mind. It often shows up in the quiet nights, when all outside sounds have ceased, leaving only the thoughts in your head. But strangely, in those very moments, if we begin to recall an old memory, a happy day, a time someone held us tight, or the sound of our grandchildren's laughter, that fear begins to fade, making way for warmth and gratitude. Recalling and retelling good memories isn't about clinging to the past. It's about reminding yourself that you have lived, and you have lived a meaningful life. That alone helps calm the soul before the approaching end, because you don't feel any regrets. According to the University of California, Berkeley, regularly reminiscing and sharing positive memories helps reduce symptoms of depression and anxiety in older adults by up to 45%. They feel their lives are more valuable, their bonds with loved ones grow closer, and their sleep deepens each night. Mr. Frank, 86 in Michigan, sits with his wife each afternoon to tell stories of how they first met. The stories are repeated, seemingly old, but each telling is a reliving. When I tell them, I feel young again. I see my life wasn't as empty as I once feared. If you are feeling heavy-hearted, try writing down or telling someone a happy story, a memory you treasure. Maybe with your kids, your partner, or simply by telling it to yourself. You don't have to remember it all. Just remember what once made you smile. You could keep a small notebook nearby for beautiful days. Whenever fear visits, just open it and read. It's living proof that you have loved, you have given, you have been cherished by others, and you are still living in a truly beautiful way. Beautiful memories are not just for remembering. They are for reliving the moments that make you stronger on this journey toward its end. If you're still with me and finding this helpful, drop a 3 in the comments to let me know. And if you haven't yet, consider subscribing and hitting that bell so you won't miss our next video. Your support helps us continue creating more meaningful and inspiring content. And so, after all the personal memories, what warms our hearts the most is feeling that we are still connected to someone, still being heard, still having someone to wait for. An elderly woman thought she was dying until her grandchild asked, "Grandma, what major should I choose?" And that day, she felt alive again. Death often becomes most frightening when we feel we are no longer anything in other people's eyes. But if every day you still have a phone call, a shared meal, a quick check-in from family, then you are living a life that is still full of meaning. And that, however small, is enough to quiet the soul amid so many thoughts. When we connect with family, what we receive is not just warmth, but a reminder that we are still leaving our mark, still passing on our love, and there are still people who need us. And that very fact makes the fear of death less of a burden, because we know after we're gone that love will carry on. According to the Harvard study of adult development, Older adults who maintain close family ties report higher life satisfaction, lower risks of depression, and an average life expectancy that is 5 to 7 years longer. Kids don't need to be there every day. Just keeping in touch, sharing a laugh, talking about old times is enough to put a heart at ease. Mrs. Helen, at 88 in Texas, was living alone after her husband died. She was often quiet, thinking about death, about the last day, until her granddaughter moved close by, coming for dinner once a week, listening to her old stories and asking for advice about school. She says, "I'm not afraid to die anymore because I feel I am still a part of someone else's life." If you are living far from your children, don't wait for them to reach out. Call them, write a letter, send a text. Tell them an old story, ask how they are, share a recipe, a memory, an old picture. Don't ever be afraid to say you miss them. What you need to do is simple. Just pick a day of the week to call your family or write down the things you want to say, the advice you want to give. When you proactively connect, you not only warm their hearts, you too will feel more alive, more loved, more remembered. Death cannot erase a person who has lived with kindness. And when you leave behind love and connection, you will never truly be from the hearts of those you love. And when you have family to lean on, memories to recall, and purpose for each day, the final thing that brings you true peace of mind is preparing yourself mentally for the inevitable. No one has died from talking about death, but so many have lived incompletely. By not daring to prepare for what we all must face, many people avoid discussing death, fearing that talking about it brings it closer. But in truth, death doesn't wait for an invitation to knock. The difference is this: those who are mentally prepared receive death as a natural part of life, without rushing, without fumbling, without fear. And because of that, they live their final days as a gift rather than a sentence. Preparing doesn't mean giving up. It means getting your affairs in order, internally and externally. It means writing down what you'd like to finish, sharing your wishes with family, choosing a representative for when it's needed. It means simplifying everything, so the rest of your life isn't filled with so many worries. Once your mind is clear, everything feels as light as an autumn leaf. Not sad, just closing out a season. According to the Hospice Foundation of America, older adults who have prepared mentally, legally, and emotionally report a higher quality of life in their final years. They feel less anxiety, communicate more easily with loved ones, and spend their time on what truly matters. Mr. Walter, 90 years old in Iowa, once shared, "I've written my will, told my kids my wishes, and advised my wife about everything. Now I don't think about when anymore. I just think, today I feel good. So what can I do that makes me happy?" He still plays his mandolin each morning, still waters his plants, and still gives a big smile to anyone who visits. If you find it hard to start, try writing down 3 things you want to accomplish before you go. It could be writing a letter to a grandchild, apologizing to someone, or passing on a keepsake to a loved one. Just 3 things. But upon finishing, you'll feel your heart open up, feel lighter, and no longer be trapped by fear. You only need to prepare gradually. You don't have to do it all in one day. Start with a conversation with a loved one, a small note on paper, a quiet moment with yourself. And then, little by little, you will see death isn't so scary because you are ready to greet it with a peaceful heart. Living a long time is less important than living with a light heart. And preparing ahead of time is the gentlest gift you can give yourself and to those you leave behind. Some people die in fear, and some people died on an afternoon telling a joke to their grandchild. No one can escape the final leg of the journey. But what we can choose is how we go. Go in peace or go in fear. Those who live long, live deeply, are not stronger than the rest of us, but they have learned one thing: gaining is a part of living, and living with kindness each day is the best way to prepare for that. You don't have to think about death every day, but you can. Call your son or daughter, hug your grandchild one more time, retell a beautiful memory, write down something you are grateful for today. These things, though small, they make each day of life more meaningful than you can ever imagine. If this video gave you some peace of mind, please share it with a friend, a family member, or anyone you have ever heard say, Dying is the thing I fear most. Because you never know, you may have just given them more than a word of comfort, but a doorway to living more peacefully through their final years. Thank you for listening and for daring to face this fear and then choosing to live more deeply starting today.